Where's the other one, Kevin? The warrant STM 2025-03-18 file.
Yep.
Okay. We're really not going to do anything with the line item budget tonight because we're waiting for the hold on education to get removed in early April. All righty. So back to the annual town meeting warrant article. So the first thing on the agenda is Article 1, Town Reports. We were sent a PDF of the book that is currently at the printers. So everyone should have been able to take a look at it and we could vote that.
I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but I'll make a motion that we recommend town meeting approve the article as written.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Kathy? Oh,
This is the 200 and whatever page, okay.
yeah.
I haven't read it yet.
I think it's still, oh, we've gotten it in
Yeah,
the,
wait.
We got it in
PDF,
email.
yeah.
All right, so let me just write this down. Sorry, I'm
It's printed off
trying to
some
catch
sections.
everything up at once. Town reports. So it approved as written. And it was Kathy was the second. Who was the first?
Me.
Mike. All right. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? That's 8-0. Community preservation report, we still don't have yet. I did highlight in yellow there the language Mike asked about, and I forgot to bring it up to Barbara about the necessity for that. Why is that there when we do the actual appropriations and other articles? So that's still waiting for an answer, but I managed to highlight it so I didn't lose it this time.
I agree that wording is in every one of those going back for years, but it just struck me a different way this year when I read it.
I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it has been the same, yeah.
Okay, Article 3 is new. It's the codification of the practice we've had since the CPA's been adopted about how we split up the proceeds into open space, historic resources, community housing, etc.
Article what?
Article 3, it's brand new to this edition of the warrant file. So it's called Community Preservation Fund Reserve.
Kevin, it was something our attorneys made us aware of in the middle of last town meeting.
About how the kind of the necessity to do this, even though,
We've been doing, the numbers have been right, we just have not had an article codifying it.
yeah.
Should that be reserved or reserve?
I think it reserved because, right, you're
Yes.
saying I'm taking the pot of CPC funds and I'm allocating them here, here, and here, reserved for,
Right, I know, but it ends in ED. I thought, should it be reserve or reserved with it? Reserved, I don't know.
I think it should be
you mean
reserved.
in the title?
The spelling of the
Fund
word
reserve.
reserve, it ends in a D as in reserved. Should it be ED or should it
Well,
just
because
end in
the
E?
first line says, "To see if the town will vote to reserve."
Reserve.
all right. I mean, that's ours to correct
We
anyway,
can
so we
check
can
on that,
correct.
yeah.
Spelling thing.
Yeah, I'll correct it. I'll take it out. It's ours to correct. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
The only language that belongs that doesn't belong to us is from the word to the word there too. Everything else is ours.
Okay.
Should we say allocate?
So
That's really what we're doing here, right? We're allocating,
So
Well, the article seeks for us to reserve from funds, so if you want to go back, and if you don't like the, it's reserved with the D, maybe it's reserves because we're putting reserves into 4 different funds.
This was drafted for us, I believe, and I think it's to reserve from the, it's without a
Yeah,
D. Typically, we call them reserve
talking about
funds.
the title.
Caption.
Yeah.
Oh, reserves,
Yeah, well, with, right,
Should be nice.
is it?
should be nice. Multiple reserve funds.
We're getting rid of the D. It's that easy. All right.
Yep.
So
earmark?
Huh?
Earmark?
that'll really cause a lot of.
Oh,
Well, that has a bit of a.
I understand where you're
connotation.
going with that because it's sort of what it is, but I can just see, where the article doesn't use the word earmark in it anywhere.
all right.
Okay.
So why are we doing this? if we've got
Because
that?
by the law says that you're supposed to vote to allocate into those buckets. We never have. We've done it since the beginning of, since we,
Chris said
I don't know, has it been 20 years at least since we've
At
had it?
least.
Yeah. We've done it correctly each of those years, but you're supposed to take a vote.
We've
to
actually
do it.
allocated these amounts every year?
No, they change every year.
It's 10%. So we get about $1 million a year coming in. What we're supposed to do is allocate or reserve 10% of that to each one of these four categories, and the remaining 60% stays in that unreserved fund, that we can then decide which bucket we
Oh,
want to
okay.
move it into. So all this article says is we recognize we need to take 10% of the total fund and put it
Into
into
each
each of the
category.
four funds.
Well, these are, they're three, right?
Interesting.
Well, no, there's four. There's the unallocated one,
unallocated.
where all the rest remains. So like Mike is saying, this is 10% to open space,
three
10% to historic resources, 10% to community
community
housing, and the rest is unallocated.
70% goes, okay, gotcha.
And just so you know, I did get a number from Barbara that last year, the state match for fiscal year '25 was $221,920 for, for our collections. So I was under the impression we weren't getting any matching anymore, but we have been. And it has, at least in the 3 years she gave me, it's gone down, but we're still getting something.
Correct.
So, okay, so Article 3, Fund Reserve. Do I have a motion to accept it as
Motion that
written?
that we recommend town meeting approve the article as written.
Do I have a second?
Have a second.
Mike McGlone. All right, let me just cut and paste from up here. So Kathy, the only thing I would think is you want to abstain on this one too, because it does go into open housing.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
I'm not 100% sure of that, but better to avoid it.
Yeah, no, you're right, yep.
All right, where was that? Article 3, there we go. All right, any more comments, questions? All those in favor? Opposed and abstaining, so it's 701. All right, so that takes care of Article 3, which wasn't in here, but we're going through these anyways. Article 4, Community Debt Service.
Is that in Article 5?
We voted that.
Oh, right, it is, it's 5 now, sorry. I didn't adjust the warrant.
Off of the old agenda.
No, yeah, we're working off the old agenda, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you. So this has the additional bullet point we were missing last week with the funds for the senior center project.
Yes.
Make a motion that we recommend town meeting approve the article as written.
I'll second.
All right, so I got. So that's Mike Hager and Jim Waddick. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? 8-0. And just in case you didn't notice, the Board of Selectmen went through this all on Monday night, and except for water and sewer, they voted everything 3-0. All right, so just going to the town budget, even though we're going to hold off on that, because we still have a hold on the education things, the one thing I wanted to mention is you would have seen the email today from Barbara with the new line item budget attached to it. And what I wanted to make clear is she talked about how the funds, the $25,000 in savings coming from Burgess is actually going into the overlay. And that still nets us out to zero. And the reason it's going into the overlay is because you'll see there's an article to adopt some new parts of the HERO project, so that money would go in there for any veterans who would want to do it. So if you were to look at page E3, I just want to show you how the math works. So you would look at E3, and basically our 30 million really the 45,083,000 gets reduced by 25,000, and the expenses in the overlay increases by 25,000, and they even themselves out.
Say that again, no, please, Kevin.
Well, one side is revenue, the other side is the expenses, so we're reducing the 25,000 basically coming out on this side is gonna end up over here in overlay. All right, so we're waiting on the educational budgets. Now we're gonna go to landfill grading and compacting. And I don't know the new number for that.
Should be 31.
Is it? They adjusted, so they had to take one out then. It's actually Article 30 now.
Oh, it's back, so something came out?
So something had to have come out, yeah. So Mike, you wanted to talk to these?
I can give a summary, yeah, so I was the liaison of the Board of Health, so this is the one we heard at the budget meeting here, so there's, over the years, we've been grading the landfill, doing a cover on that. It turns out that the grading and the condition that it's in now is out of compliance with our permit. And we have to go back in and regrade it, some of the slopes on one side of it to be in compliance with the permit and the overall way things are supposed to be graded and sizes and so forth. So we don't have, given the steepness of this, we don't really have folks at the DPW and the equipment to be able to do this ourselves. So Board of Health needs to go out and bring in a contractor to do this work. And to pay for this, there's some of it, I believe it's free cash, and some of it's coming from a landfill closure account, so that had the engineer take a look at, what the profile needs to be when we're done, and some of this grading and final covering is consistent with the final closure plan, so we can use some of the closure funds for that. The other part is not applicable to the funds in that account, so we're going to use the other funding source for it.
I make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion that we recommend town meeting approve the article as written.
I'll second.
Okay. I only have one question. This is for Robin. Why is it coming from the select board and not the Board of Health?
Ken asked me to put it in, and I just, to be honest with you, I just put it in from the select board. It doesn't matter to me. I don't think the select board has an issue if it comes from the Board of Health. That's fine.
Yeah, we did those last week.
Correct that.
I got a quick question,
Go ahead.
probably not related to anything that we're talking about, but that landfill was, half of it
Like in
was
you, right?
town of Southbridge and half was town of Sturbridge. Years ago. Many years ago. Wasn't the whole, I know that the town of Southbridge used, if you head down on the right-hand side, it used to be the town of Southbridge. Would dump over there. And the town of Sturbridge was on the left-hand side going down the hill. I used to own a lot of the land around there.
Yep.
But years ago, before the Southbridge landfill was over up on the hill, they were dumping over there.
So the way this was described to me, this is part of our active landfill. We've been filling in grading on our side.
Yeah.
So
You have
I
to
don't-
put a cap on top with
Yeah.
clay and.
So I don't know if you're talking about, we were sharing the same hole and they were on one side of the hole, we were the other, or they're
I'm
separate
just wondering if
spots.
we're doing both sides, that's all.
We're just doing the south side of the active one that we, is
Okay,
part of
okay,
ours.
that'd be the one on one side. Okay, yeah, all right. That's what I was wondering.
Any further questions? So all those on Article 30 landfill grading and compacting in favor? That's 8-0. Okay. All right, Article 31, Cedar Street Sidewalk Project. Robin, do you have anything you want to discuss with that one?
So, several years back, actually, before I came here, the town, and actually before Heather was here, the town had applied for a complete streets grant that it had gotten to put sidewalks from from Route 20 up to the Burgess Access Road, where there's also a secondary sidewalk project that has some grant funding. So we extended that grant once. I went back to the board. I said, do you want us to continue to try to do this? We need to get another extension. The board absolutely did want us to continue that grant. So we used that funding to start the survey work on that. And we now realize that we will have some areas that we will have to take do easements on. And this is money basically to cover the legal costs of the easements. We did have a neighborhood meeting with, we knocked literally on every door of everybody that was impacted. We gave them plans. We held a neighborhood meeting. So that's where it stands now. But if we want to move forward with this during the next fiscal year, we're going to have to get some easement. That's just going to require some legal recording costs.
So right now, there is no sidewalk from Route 20 up to Burgess School Road.
Right.
There's this grant program where we can get funding to have the sidewalk installed. We just need to go out and get the easements and the rights to have it installed, and we need some dollars in this article for the easements, but the installation of the sidewalk itself, including all the engineering and permitting and so forth, is part of that grant funds that we've received.
Is that true? Because that's my thing is when did we undertake this project, and when did we put the funds aside to do this project?
This was undertaken, I believe, sometime back in maybe 17 or 18, maybe 19.
Find out.
I can look, I'm trying to look to see what the full funding is on that. Let me just see what I can get for you for an answer on that. But I believe that there was a strong community desire for this.
Yeah, but where are the funds?
Complete streets from the state. It's a state grant.
So the entire project is being paid for by state grants?
I'm just trying to confirm that right now. Let me take a look.
And/or.
Yeah, I know, there's lots of spelling errors that need to be corrected, yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. Trying to keep doing versions of it. And Bob was my ace proofreader for me on these, when I'm pulling the last minute ones out there. So I'll get you, I've got it next over to Heather. She has the funding breakdown on this, but I do believe it is a funded project. Want to move on and go back to it?
Okay,
Because I can go through some documents too that I'm trying to look through right now.
okay.
Actually, hold on one second, I'm getting an answer now, there's no match. We don't have to do any match, we have to cover the costs that are outside the money we got. So, okay, so is there enough?
So basically, we
I'm just trying to
have,
find out.
we have $500,000 with restrictions from a state grant, and anything that doesn't fall within the realm of those restrictions, we're responsible for paying for, and we don't have.
That's what I'm doing right now, so let's see. Oh. So, yeah, so there's no, okay, anything outside, we can use, if it goes over what the state gave us, we can use Chapter 90 funds to finish it.
So then why do you need $20,000 from free cash if you can use Chapter 90 funds?
I don't think Chapter 90 funds can be used for legal fees.
Can you ask that question?
Yep. Yeah, so we'd have to get an estimate to actually go out to bid to know exactly what, that's why the surveyors are out there now, trying to get the estimate so we know the exact cost of the project. And so, assuming legal fees. Let's see, okay. We're gonna have to, okay. I have Heather on the other, on the other end here. Let's see. Yeah, so she's a, no, she said likely not. So I think she feels that if she pushed that, yeah. Yep, it's not what chapter 90 is meant for, is not legal fees and easements.
Yeah. And where did the $20,000 figure come from? Is this just I mean,
It's an estimate based on the number of properties. It's, I think, 10 properties, and it's usually 1 or 2,000, you know, to get something recorded, so we just wanted to make sure we had enough in there.
Well, yeah, but you say-
If there's an extra, that'll come back. She says she's never used Chapter 90 for legal expenses. She can try to find out, but she said when you're doing TIP projects, for example, you cannot use anything for easements and legal fees.
so, but it says right in here that, you know, the cost of any land and easement acquisitions is part of the $20,000. It's not unheard of that a landowner now has a piece of property that's stopping a project, and he wouldn't want $1,000 or $2,000, he may want all the $20,000.
No, if we had to buy it, we might be able to use that money separately, but the actual, the 20,000, we are not buying these from people. We're not buying these. So, if we had to eminent domain it, we would be literally talking slices of people's property.
Yeah, I know, that's why you're trying to
So,
get.
right now, we've had no resistance, and look, this is the best guess we can give you for 10 properties on what it appears it's gonna be. Most of the people have indicated a full willingness, because they want the sidewalks. Now, if somebody holds it up, could it be more? I guess so. But we at least have to have money in there in case this all starts looking good. It looks, right now, it does look good. The public is interested, the public wants it. We've done preliminary surveys. Now we would have to go out to bid to get a cost and see where it's gonna fall within the, you know, within that grant and Chapter 90 funds total, you know, combined. But then, if it all goes well, we have to have some money available for the easements, for legal fees.
Okay.
If it doesn't get spent, obviously, it's, you know, it comes back. I just,
Well, it would have to be rescinded, but we could get it
Right.
back.
yeah,
Well, if it doesn't get spent, it's warrant article, and then they close out the article and it comes back to
Right.
the general fund. We don't have to rescind the article.
Usually, okay.
yeah, I mean, we just need it there so that if this is ready to move forward, because we've already asked for 2 extensions on this, because it's been around for 6 years. Well, I don't want to be so tied up if it happens, lose that money from the state and not be able to put another extension because we didn't have money set aside for legal fees.
We're on Cedar Street project,
Article 31.
31.
So, Kevin, I think
Change
if the
pages
concern is, we're putting 20,000 here, but next thing you know, you're gonna need another 50, 60, 70, or 80.
Yeah.
We're only $20,000 in the hole if we say, no, we don't wanna spend a dime more than 20,000 and get this thing done. You know, it doesn't make sense to proceed for the extra amount of money you want. We did that with the parking lot. We thought it was this, so it's twice that. Do you wanna spend the money, or do you wanna not do the project? We make a decision here. So it's not like we're $200,000 in the hole, and then we decide we need another 300, we're out here. It's just a small amount of money. And as Robin said, while it may not be widely known, this has been going on for a while. It's part of this whole program. There's been outreach with the affected property owners. There seems to be general, you know, support for this whole thing and momentum moving it forward. And if there is a snag or a holdup, there's always a reset. And it's not like we devoted a lot of other town money. It's, all right, we'll let the grant go by and we'll lose out on the opportunity, and we'll look for something else down the road.
Okay.
Is there a time clock on the grant money? This has been hanging around for 6 years.
We'll have to we've asked for 2 extensions and they've been granted. We have to ask for extensions at a certain point, and we have gotten them. That's why I don't want to tie it up any longer.
Yeah.
So why is it taking so long to get this off the ground?
Because when this originally got done, it was done by a staff member who's no longer here. Jean Gouldon had some concerns about the timing on it. It was put in under her name, but basically it had to go in under the planner. She, at the time, was very concerned about the capacity the town had to do this project. They got an extension to hold on to it. Another couple of years passed, there wasn't still anybody taking the lead on it. And then Heather and I came in, and in the past, and Heather's been working on the part of it that's on Burgess itself to get to the school. And this bubbled up again, is ready to expire, and my board and I said, you know, I'm not sure we've got full capacity to take this on now, but we are doing the other portions of it. The board said, no, we do not want to lose this grant. And there's been a strong will for it, as Mike said, this is something the public has wanted. So I wrote a letter of extension and said, look, we are going to start moving on this. So as soon as that letter of extension went in, we immediately were going out to bid with ARPA money for some survey work, the other part of the sidewalks. And while they were out there, we started the survey work with this. So we are well into it. We've let the state know that we are actively spending down on that.
Okay. Any other questions related to Article 31?
In the grant, is it all encompassing or is there any exclusions on the grant? Like,
There's no
does it
match
exclude
required.
anything, that would put more debt on our side, on our ledger?
No, no debt.
And we haven't, other than Chapter 90 funds that's under Heather's control, we haven't authorized, the town hasn't authorized expenditures of any other funds to go there. So if they
Well, they
come up
have.
short, they're gonna need to come back and seek additional
Well,
funding.
they have. They've authorized ARPA funds to pay for the things.
No, that was the other portion. That was the other portion.
What's the other portion then?
The Burgess portion of Cedar was ARPA funds.
So once you get up to the
There
driveway,
are three Cedar Street sidewalk projects. One is way out, further up the road, not even really on the radar, except that we got everything surveyed while they were out there, just so that we would have all the surveys. One phase is from Cedar into Burgess.
Right.
That was funded with ARPA, that study. And then this phase is the complete streets one.
Okay. All right. That helps explain that.
I think this goes from Main Street District.
Just to the
Burgess
Cedar
Road,
Street,
to
the beginning of the
Burgess
road, yeah.
Yeah, this is just for that first portion.
Okay. Anyone else with questions, or do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Jim wanted to approve as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
That's Chris. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? 8-0. Okay. All right, so now we gotta back up a little bit and find public access, which I think is 17.
17.
Well, it was, it's 18 now.
It's-
So that's the money we get from,
18 now, okay.
to fund the public access department. Okay. Any questions or comments? Do I have a motion from somebody?
So moved?
Kathy?
Kathy, do I have a second?
Second,
That was you?
Mike.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? 8-0. All right, so next, Sturbridge Tourist Association, right? That's tonight? Yeah. And that's now Article 19. Okay.
I apologize, we just did the road construction repairs?
No, we did the Public Access Department.
Number 18.
Public access, cable TV. It would have been.
Oh, there we go,
It was
okay,
17 last week.
gotcha.
Yeah, the numbers changed.
I apologize, go ahead.
Okay.
Comes
It's-
out of your
It's
table.
confusing.
Number is it?
We are now at Article 19, which is the Sturbridge Tourist Association.
Assuming you're using the latest version that he sent out within the last day or two.
We do this, that dealt this afternoon, yeah.
This is a standard article where they allocate the funds, their betterment share, their share of the betterment funds. I'll make a motion that we recommend town meeting approve the article as written.
Okay, MH, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jim Waddick. All right. Any questions or comments? I guess the only thing I would do, there used to be, like a codification of what each of these budget items are. Is that still in existence? So what community support means and what marketing means. I know salaries and wages is half of the economic development, and employee benefits is half of that as well. But do we still
Well,
have the?
I think that's a fair question, and the board asked the same question the other night. One of the board members said that she really would like a better definition and understanding from STA on how they're defining some of these things going forward.
Well, they usually
Not necessarily
exist. That's what-
Well, they do, but I think that there's some discussion of whether or not that needs to be looked at again and readdressed. I don't know if they have it formally written, they probably do, but I think that's a discussion we need to have anyway.
They definitely were, but, okay. So I just wanted to know. Because I don't, has anyone else served on the STA in this in connection? Because I served. So
The
what?
marketing goes toward, local, regional, like Discover Central Mass.
Right, and Yankee Magazine.
Marketing, and then community is where it gets a little bit trickier, because they typically define it as heads and beds, is the lead way they look at it. But I think there's a lot of discussion as to what else counts in there.
'Cause I remember when I was on the STA, there were more categories and there were definitely definitions for them as to what funding was going to what, was covered by it. All right, I'm not torn either way. I was just curious as to where we stand. So I have a first and
We
a
could either have them come in and give their presentation, or we could, part of some off-cycle topic that we handle
We
in
can
the
get
fall,
it.
we could have them come in and give a little more detailed explanation on how they're spending the money.
I'm okay with either one. Do we want to just take it up?
I'm ready to go.
Okay. So any other questions or comments then? I have a first and a second to approve it as written. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? So I think that was 8-0. I didn't catch it all.
I think you're right.
Okay. All right, so what's after STA? All right, the school bus.
21,
Article 22.
22, okay.
Okay, so
Did we already do Article 20? No,
we did not.
okay. You jumping ahead, 22?
Well, I mean, it's not on the agenda for tonight. Yeah. It's got to be on a later agenda. I can look. So 22 is the school bus. As most of you know, the school bus, normally in the Burgess budget, we're the only town in the district that has its own school bus fleet. That budget usually contains the funds to purchase 2 school buses. This year, it has the funds to purchase 1, and the town has purchased the second one. My understanding that this is a one-off. It will not be continuing. It's just for this year. So, one is coming.
Well, this was just a way to get around the constraints of, expenses being greater than the increase in expenses being larger than the increase in revenues, and we have a bundle of free cash. I think the number you gave me is $5 million. We're going to spend half of that. We're going to get it down to, about 2.5, if my math is right. So we're not going to have a ton of free cash unless there's extra revenues coming in, right? So,
Yeah, that's what we were pointing out at our joint hearing.
so this is not the ideal way to do it. We don't want to be using free cash to cover operation-related expenses such as this and the police cruiser. We can get by with it this year, but if we're in the same boat next year, we might have to sit here and say, guess what? We're going to have to make some cuts along the way.
Yeah.
On our side and within the school side, they can figure out where best to do that, given however much money we can allocate over there, so.
Do we know right now we're headed into that next year? I mean, is there going to be another school bus acquisition, another
Is there 2 every
They're
year?
always up.
two every year?
They
2
do,
every year.
yeah.
Mhm.
2 every
Which is
year.
why we like put them in the operating budget, because it is an annual purchase. We fully agree with you, and the first things Barbara and I are committed to next year are funding stabilization back the way it should be, and the cruiser and the bus being back in the budgets.
I still, just reading some of the 5-year capital plan items and all that type of stuff, I just don't see how you're gonna do it. I just
Yeah.
can't see it right now. There's no sense of urgency on the revenue side. And we have a lot of borrowing coming over the next three years or so, if you look. So are we gonna borrow all of those with 2.5 exceptions? I mean, you got a $2 million fire truck next year.
But again, this year we had, I agree, it doesn't look brilliant ahead, but we also had 16.7% on Worcester retirement, which all indications are that's gonna go back to a 9% normal, if you will, increase. Healthcare had a big bump. That might be a couple of years we'll see that, but hopefully that will adjust within a few years. We had those unanticipated expenses that were out of our control, that, if that 300 something, if the difference of a couple $100,000 from Worcester retirement wasn't there, we could have bought the bus, the $125,000, we would have had that, we could have bought the bus or the cruiser. And we would have been, one less nightmare we would have had. So wait, fully, not the way I want to do it either.
Robin, could you just refresh our memory? We talked about this, but I don't remember the year where, under current law or regulations, we have to go electric with these vehicles. What year was that?
26.
Is it 29?
26.
26.
26, oh.
Yeah, that's why everybody's gonna be grabbing these before they're sold out, basically unable to get them, because everybody's sort of panicking and grabbing them.
I would,
No, it's the dump vehicles,
Worcester's
the
already,
big diesel truck.
Worcester is already purchasing electric buses. I read that, I think, in the Telegraph.
Well, so WRTA, I'm on that board, and they are, but they didn't purchase as many as the state really would like them to. They only purchased 3. There are concerns. There are challenges with them. And the other buses, those are the vans, and then they purchase some big electric buses, but even storage, they have to store them outside for safety. That's not ideal for the electric, so I sit on that board, and I have big concerns with them having to do that. There's no mandate yet for them having to go all electric. They have some emission things that they have to comply with, but that's going to be a big issue.
Legislature may have to face reality and make some changes.
Yeah,
So Kevin, it looks like our options are, say no to this, have them either add it
No,
back
I-
into their budget and adjust and work within their budget to put it in there. Just say no to this, we'll only get one this year, and hopefully you not have any issues with that. Or just say, this is what we need to do this year, and start to think about plan of how we would address this issue if it arises next year.
that's what I want to have happen, is I want someone to say, you know what, we're looking at this, I mean, we've had certain, town non-elected people pointing this out for years, yet the people who are actually responsible for managing this and setting policies just seem to say, it seems to be taking care of itself. We're not going to look at 5-year plans and worry about what's coming. And it's coming.
A complicating issue, though, is the difficulty in purchasing vehicles without a long lead time because they're just not available. And we've run
I'm not
into that.
I'm not talking just
Yeah.
vehicles, though.
So sometimes we have to buy stuff with a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when we need it, we won't be able to get
Well,
it.
that's what we did last week with the dump trucks.
Right.
Was it the fire or the police department that wanted 2 vehicles and they chose to only do 1?
Police.
Okay, the police,
Please.
so, I mean, they made a conscious decision to say, we're only gonna fund 1, or we're only gonna get 1.
And we've done that a couple of times in the past. They were on a 2 per year in the operating budget, and they've skipped 1 every now and then.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the first time that's happened. So. All
I mean,
right.
it was one of those, when we looked at the budget, we just said, we will not do it this year. I mean, we'd like to get back to it, because then again, you don't want to get so behind that your fleet gets ahead of you. But this year, we had to make that choice.
I would be willing to bet that first electric bus is going to be a lot more than this
And
$5,000.
Well, you,
the infrastructure and the repair and trying to get our own mechanics up to speed on working on them. I mean, there's a whole host of things that have not been dealt with by the state legislature on this.
All right, so I don't have anything on Article 22 at this point. Does someone want to make a motion?
22?
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to.
Jim Waddick. Do I have a second? Kathy Neal? Any further questions or comments?
So next year, what do we do? They just gonna come in with another warrant next year? Or they
No,
gonna-
next year is supposed to be 2 in the Burgess budget, in the school operating budget.
Are they gonna start carrying it then?
They've been carrying it for years. This year, in order to, like Mike points out, in order to balance the books so that we, we're obligated to present a balanced budget at the town meeting.
So, yes, if you don't mind, if they were to go back and do as they would plan, as they normally do, the school budget that we see here would be $135,000 higher.
Yeah.
That would put us $135,000 out of balance with where we are. So that means we got to go back into the entire budget and figure out where to cut money.
Yeah.
Is it recreation, is it somewhere on the town operating side? Or is it on the school side? Hey, move some of your staff around, do something over there. But we'd have, between us and the school, we'd have to find a way to cut $135,000 out of the budget if it were back in there. So this year, they said, we'll put the 1 here, we'll use free cash, since there's still a bunch of that now, balance the budget, and if we run into the same situation next year, and we don't have as much free cash to spend to balance out this way, then we all have to have the review to figure out how do we move things around in the operating budget to stay within balance? Or seek a Prop 2.5 override and see if people want to override that and increase the amount that we can raise and appropriate.
Hey, Larry?
One thing the committee could do is, well, there are choices. On April 3rd, the superintendent will be here. The committee could advise her that as she looks to the next cycle, it is anticipated that this committee's position on this topic will be, and then lay it out. Another way is to memorialize it in the minutes of this meeting and send it to the superintendent and/or the school committee, so that they have more than a year's notice that this is a matter taken most seriously because of its consequences by this committee. And we can, at the same time, acknowledge we're relying on your word, educators. You said 1 time, we can count to 1, and we've just done it.
Mm-hmm.
Next time, your turn. We could do that.
I think that's a great
I
idea.
think it's great.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I just kind of feel as though if nothing changes, nothing will change.
That's right, sure. So,
And the sense from the public hearing and presentation, I think they understand that, and they understand it belongs over here. This is just a way to get around this year. If it goes on, then yeah, I think they're on board. So we can communicate that when they're on April 3rd, and we'll see how things play out over the course of the year.
sure, I hope it could be done in an unambiguous way, because when new facts enter the picture, old facts can start looking a lot different. But the position hasn't changed. So finding a way, it could be in writing, with the standard quitclaim, barring extraordinary, not unforeseen, unforeseeable circumstances, this will be the committee's position. Fair is fair. I mean, we have an obligation to 10,000 people.
Yeah, it's definitely not a balanced budget. And now it's almost like we're borrowing from free cash.
One of the consequences is protecting the bond rating. That's real serious.
Yes.
And from conversations I've had, I understand that the bond rating agencies do not like to see operations funded out of free cash, because it's not a bottomless well.
Right.
And when,
You think this
and they just, your rating, I mean, they'll put you at a B minus or something from A plus overnight if you suddenly are doing payroll, for example. Oh, they get real serious. So, you know, look at that day's cash on hand. It's so, anyway, that's the thought.
Do you think this would trip us into a worse bond rating?
I'm sorry.
Do you think this would trip us into a worse bond rating?
No, not this year.
Not this year, oh, no. No, no, no. And protection for that is the declaration a year in advance. We know what we are doing, and we're not going to do it again.
A single item here, like we're talking here, I don't think does that. If it goes back to the only way we can staff police and fire, the only way we can pay the teachers is if we use free cash to do that. That's where it becomes problematic. A purchase of a capital item that's usually in operating, but one time over here is,
That's an excellent point, because it won't be in isolation. If it came to that, it won't be an it, it'll be a they, it'll be really a calamity.
If I could also, I agree, I like very much, we like to keep our free cash balance very healthy. But even after all of the spending that we have in there this year in free cash, we are still within the range of the government guidelines, the Gatsby and government guidelines that are out there. So, really going to have about 2 months of your operating budget's worth of free cash, or between 7 and 13%. We're within the standards still, even after this spending. We're not, we're actually on the high end, if not a little bit over, which is a good thing. And that's why we're able to weather this, and that's why you keep that little bit extra, even more than you really need, so that you can weather these cycles. And we're not trying to hold taxpayer dollars, that's not what we want to do. But we want to have enough to be able to weather a year like this,
I think that Larry's on to a point here, in that we let the schools, we let the Board of Selectmen, and if we have to officially let the town administrator know, that we are not going to accept using free cash to pay for operating expenses going forward. We understand it this year, but it can't happen again.
and we can work that into
We agree.
our message. I think we can work it into our message in our book for this year. And Robin, I agree. Our free cash after we spend down the 2.5 million we're going to spend this year puts us within the range. I think we got to a year where our free cash and our stabilization balances are going to fall within the ranges that were in the plan, as opposed to we're outside the upper range. Should we still hang on to it? Should we do something else with it? So you put us in a spot where we spent it down, we're now in the range. If we spend it down anymore, we get into discussion of we're below the range, we got a problem here.
no, we don't want to do that, right?
That's
right,
a
exactly.
different color, right, yeah.
You need a vote.
Yeah, I know, I got you. But I'm writing notes down for the, either articles for consideration or our thing.
It's an excellent idea.
That's all right.
Because we're giving them, like I said, more than 12-month warning, so it won't be a surprise next time.
Marbury. Sorry, writing's never,
Legible?
yeah, especially when I'm trying to do it fast. I'm gonna look at it tomorrow and say, what the heck was this? What the hell? All right, school bus. So I have a first and a second. Nice discussions related around the whole bigger topics surrounding them. And any further questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's 8-0. All right, library elevator. Now,
It's either 22 or 23.
it's 23.
So the library was mine as well. We go back to, we upgraded the HVAC system a few years back to, I don't know, it was $1 million or something. Whatever the expenditure was, it kind of tripped the ADA review. Well, that was a different story. This one, that's for the next one.
Yeah, it's
This
really-
one is, we've had the problems with the elevator, we've had a couple of repairs, we had a reserve fund transfer to pay for that one. a couple of repairs a while back. We hired a consultant to come in and take a look at the elevator and make an assessment. They came back with a report and basically came up with a number of upgrades close to a full rebuild of the elevator, given the age and some of the non-compliant issues that are in the elevator, given its age and where we need to be.
There were some legacy parts, I think, even.
So there is a scope of work, a plan that came from that report, and, this article funds the currently expected cost to do the elevator repairs. And again, it's driven by age, nearing end of life, a condition assessment that says, yes, you're going to continue to have some problems and issues in here, and you have some compliance issues, a lot of controls and safety things that need to be updated to current code as part of this process. So with that, I'll make a motion that we recommend town meeting approve the article as written.
Okay.
I second.
Mike McGlone, seconds. Okay.
I went and surveyed all the buildings last year, and that was an issue last year. the elevator.
All right then. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? 8-0. All right. All right, OPEB. That's an annual, funding our obligation for our retirees in the future. And we're nowhere near what our actuarial costs are, but at least we're doing something.
We're actually better than all other communities.
Some years ago, the regulation changed, and it put just about 351 cities and towns in an arithmetic or mathematical impossibility. So the idea became, and this town practices it, every year you tithe over knowing you're never, it'll be 300 years before you can retire it, pardon the pun, but as long as you're making that good faith effort and not a symbolic $1, nothing like that, it's got to be a substantial amount, then the bond rating agencies actually make a minute or a note on that, and it's like a tip of the hat in their opinion, that we all have access to that opinion. And it's well to keep on doing it. It's, well, it's more than prudent. I'd call it indispensable.
So Robin, the comment I would make on this one, I'm okay with this. It's the part of the overall plan. Just keep throwing a nickel in here every year, and we'll see how we solve the big $13 million problem down the road. We just put money into this fund and let it grow every year. But I've seen some other towns where you get an employee retire. They have some payouts, maybe sick time and some extra thing that they've accumulated that we have to pay out. I think we typically would pay that out of salary budgets, or we anticipate that and you add a little bit extra money into the operating budget to cover that payout. It's small dollars, given the overall level we're talking here, but I've seen other communities talk about funding those little retirement-related payouts, not out of the operating budget to save a few dollars there, but out of this fund as they kind of go along. So just something to consider if we have tight budgets going forward and we're looking for a little bit of relief on. And again, we're talking single-digit $1,000, nothing more than 10 typically on those payouts. So.
Okay. Anyone interested in making a motion to Larry and Mr. Waddick? All right, any other questions? All those in favor? 8-0. Okay, after OPEB. Where are we now? Stabilization fund
Foundation, which is,
gonna be down farther, I would. Capital Stabilization Fund, is that what 20? It had, they jumped all these numbers all over the place. Capital Stabilization I have for next week. So where's the stabilization fund one?
it was 25.
It was
stabilization.
25.
It's here, it's 24.
That's capital stabilization.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There was a, did we remove an article, Robin? Stabilization fund transfer?
No. I wonder if that got lost in a cut and paste?
No, was that the 1.2 million?
Yeah.
That was on the warrant and arrow, that, we're not doing that this year, that was last year.
So we did remove, thanks, Barbara. Getting my
Right, thank you for that,
versions
sorry.
confused. Yeah.
So that's gone. That's why the numbers got back in sync, because you got farther along. I couldn't figure that one out.
That was, I was trying to figure too, kind of how our numbers worked again. But that was the money that we decided to put it into stabilization to earn some more interest and whatnot. Locks it up a little bit, but,
Okay.
So
So that doesn't exist anymore. That's been
yeah, we
removed.
just did that last year.
All right, that was the $1.2 million one that we had, okay.
Yeah, I totally went brain dead on that, why that was
that has been
missing.
removed.
That has been, yeah, removed.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so next is the revolving fund spend it limits fiscal year '26. It's the exact same amounts as last year.
No,
Yeah,
one
it
is
is.
in,
What number is it?
No, there was a typo in last year's article, and we had to make,
no, but the landfill is increased, the pay-as-you-throw.
I thought we did that last year.
Nope, it's up to 60 this year. And that's to cover, we mentioned that we had not been properly putting any of the health agent's salary into that, and there should be a small portion. So a portion of it is that, a portion of it is also because the bag cost has increased so much,
29.
so we needed to adjust.
Okay.
Okay.
What warrant is this? What number is
We were at Article 29, revolving fund spending limits. So, you know, we have a bunch of
back to
revolving
29.
funds where they're allowed to collect money, and then they can spend money out of this, what has been collected in those ones, up to these limits. And then once they hit the limits, they can't spend it anymore. That's
That's the
what we're
same,
voting.
all the numbers are the same as last year.
And they can spend it for the purposes identified in the revolving fund.
Yeah, the authorization. I think we voted the authorization a long time ago now.
When did we take in the farmer's market?
What?
When did we take in the
I don't know what you just said.
farmer's market? When did we take in
I'm not gonna be able to find it fast enough. All right, so, I mean, we know what this is. It's Article 29.
Same, is it the same amounts as last year?
I thought it was,
Oh,
but we're told no.
No, you have 60,000 in the Board of Health pay-as-you-throw, that's higher than last year.
That's what I'm trying to find out where it was.
So what happened was,
Thank you.
there was a typo last year. The year before, it was 60,000, and then we corrected that typo with a vote, I think at the beginning of the fiscal year, I don't remember the exact month. When we discovered the issue, we took a vote between the select board and the finance committee to correct the amount to 60,000, which is what is allowed under the statute. So
I remember,
the
Barbara. There was a
the
typo
increase
in
that
the
we
warrant
did.
article.
Yeah, we did it on our August 6, 2024 meeting. Kathy and MC were the two votes. We voted 6-0 to raise it to 60,000. Thank you, Barbara.
The Board of Health should be 60.
It was 60. We corrected it because it was a typo in the warrant.
It wasn't
article.
supposed to be 60, right, but this year it is supposed to be 60.
Right, yeah, so it's the same amount as last year.
We had to fix it
Well,
after
yeah, I guess so.
Last year was corrected in our August meeting. Yep.
August meeting, exactly, that's a. Thank you, Barbara, too, for chiming
Thank
in.
you. So you need a motion?
Yes,
I'll make the motion.
okay, do I have a second? Chris, okay. Any other comments? All those in favor? 8 to nothing. Okay. Get this in here. All right, so that's everything I have for the annual town meeting at this point in time. And so let me just go back to the beginning and make sure what we got covered. So Article 1, we voted. 2, Community Preservation Report, we're still waiting for that to be submitted to us, so no vote. Article 3, which is Community Preservation Fund Reserve, we took care of tonight. Community Preservation Administration Funds, we voted. Debt Service, we voted tonight. Community Preservation Gravestone Restoration, General Trail and Bridge Project. All we need there is an explanation for our no action vote. So I'll try and write something up and disseminate it so people can comment.
Can I ask a question on that, Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
So on the bridge project, it was unclear to me last week whether you were taking no action and that was the final vote, or if you were looking for more information to come back from the Trails Committee. Could you just clarify that?
The vote was to take no action because the article is seeking $2.2 million. And then the recommendation was if an article were to come back at a lower amount, and where the expenditure of those approved amounts would be, added to a receipt of some grant funds to offset the overall cost, that would be something that we would come back and give some further consideration to. So we're not looking for them to come back. If they want to move forward with the no action, they can do that. Or if they want to come back with an alternate article for our consideration.
Something looking at mitigation, the amount of borrowing, trying to lower that amount.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Okay. So we'll take care of that. You do notice the Board of Selectmen basically voted for it 3 to nothing.
So when we say no action, does that mean it doesn't go before the town?
It goes there, and unless someone offers a substitute motion, it dies.
So the Finance Committee motion is the main motion. With a no action, we'd skip over it, there'd be no vote. If somebody were to bring a substitute motion, then we would act on the substitute motion.
I can't read it.
Article 9, Grand Trunk Trail, we've taken that. Historical Survey is good. Affordable Housing Trust, good. Grand Trunk, 7 to nothing, we're there. That's the Revolutionary War one. 13 is good. 14, Gravestone, we took care of that. Hyde Bible, that's done. Town budget, we're waiting on the education section, but otherwise everything else is voted. Road construction, repairs, and maintenance. Now, do I have that scheduled for next week? I do, good. All right, I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. Public Access Department, we did tonight. Sturbridge Terrace, we did tonight. Betterment Committee.
Next week.
Next week, excellent. Capital Improvement Plan is next week. School bus we took care of. Library elevator is good. Capital stabilization is good. OPEB is done. Reevaluation.
Capital stabilization is next week.
Yeah, you didn't do that one yet.
You skipped library.
Oh, you know what I did? I know what happened there. That is a cut and paste error on my part. I pasted it there and forgot to copy it out. So you're right, that is not voted. Thank you for catching that. OPEB is done, right? Evaluation, that's next week. Veterans exemption, that's the whole thing with the overlay, but I have that scheduled for next week. Rescinding chapter and use code, that's next week. Revolving funds we took care of. Landfill grading's done. Cedar Street sidewalk done. Water and sewer is going to be next week because we don't have numbers yet. And those are the only two that the select board did not vote, correct? Or did they just vote 3-0 for the holder?
No, we'll reopen the warrant. They closed, we will reopen for those two.
Okay, Article 34 sewer project debt, that's next week. Great stormwater's next week. And then at 36 through the end is still all the zoning articles, so we did all those.
Kevin, I'm not here next week, but you do have Article 35, the MS4 compliance. That's another one of those I put in that discussion about, that's an ongoing activity. I think we fund some of those costs in the operating budget, but we've been funding some of it out of free cash. So again, it's an ongoing operating expense that probably belongs in the DPW budget. Again, to relieve the pressures on that side, we've been funding it for a number of years out of free cash, but
I will tell you, and it makes, what you're saying makes sense, Mike, a lot of towns though did the exact same thing when that came in because it was an unfunded state mandate, and most just didn't have the capacity in their budget to pick it up. So a lot of towns have done it, but it is an annual recurring expense. So, I mean, there's certainly argument to put in the operating, but the reason that one has sort of just sat there like that, from my assessment of why it's probably that way in Sturbridge, is the same as it has been in other communities.
Okay. So, everyone's on the same page now as the annual town meeting warrant. So now we'll move to the special town meeting warrant. And that one, like I said earlier, is the new file was warrant STM 2025-0318. We're waiting on snow and ice deficit because there's still bills coming in.
Hopefully not, no.
Article 44, unpaid bills of a previous year. Right now, you can see the unpaid bills, $117.12.
and there's new Article 45, which is for another unpaid bill.
Right. But that one's not being paid the same way. That's coming out of Sturbridge SDA funds.
Ah, okay.
Right.
So, my thing about this is I would be to transfer a sum of $117.12. But would you rather see us wait another week in case another bill comes in?
No, I think you're good to vote that.
All right, so then I'll make a motion to amend the article to say, to see if the town, how do I want to say this? That the town vote to transfer the sum of $117.12 from free cash for the purpose of paying unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year. That's the motion.
Second motion.
No, I think it's me and him.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
He made the motion. He just recited it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm just gonna type it out later, transfer of 117. All right, I have a first and a second, just basically specifying the amount. And this is Article 44 of the STM. I'm gonna note this. KSJW 11712. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? 8-0, great. All right, so what else we got here? Back to this, 44, transfer of funds, insurance reimbursement. Well, actually, let's take care of the other unpaid bill too. This is coming from the SDA. I mean, this is new, so it's not on anyone's agenda, and it's reasonable to deal with it because it's just another unpaid bill from a previous year. Article 45, so this is an unpaid bill that came through the STA, and we're going to pay for it from STA funds. So basically, the thing would be the same thing that the town vote to transfer $1,000 from the Sturbridge Tourist Association fund balance for the purpose of paying unpaid bills for a prior fiscal year. That's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mike?
Chris, they
Oh,
both.
Chris did?
They
Oh,
both
okay.
voted, yeah.
All right, Chris is it. STA funds. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? 8-0. Excellent. whatever, I'll deal with it later. All right. We took care of the dump trucks. Transfer from free,
Or you guys talked about that last week?
yeah, we voted them last week.
I'm just curious, is it the same scenario as the school bus, i.e. these typically would come out of an operating budget?
No, these would typically be funded these ways, but they're being pushed up because the state has a mandate that all like, the electric truck mandate, exactly. So we're pushing them up in a special town meeting so we can do them prior to July 1st. He'll put the orders in, so we hopefully jump all the other towns trying to avoid the electric truck mandate.
And we just hope they last a long time.
So because this is a large capital piece of equipment that's purchased not on a regular basis, we treat it as a warrant article versus something that's in the operating budget. And what we would typically do here is figure out the way to pay for it. We could raise and appropriate funds and pay it through taxation all in this year. We had sufficient headroom to do that. We could borrow money to pay for it. We could use free cash. We can use any combination. So it's usually a warrant article, and the focus of the discussion is what's the funding source that's most appropriate for it. Free cash is where we're going this year.
Thank you.
So Article 48, transfer of free cash from insurance reimbursement. This is just actually to correct some accounting errors. So the money ended up in one fund and another fund got shorted. So we're kind of just correcting that accounting error. So,
Ooh, but you're moving from free cash to funded versus moving it from the one fund into the other fund there. So the action doesn't align with the explanation.
it's money that got, so someone submitted healthcare expenses. I just tried to discuss with this, Barbara, I'm going to kill it. And it is actually money that got spent. The problem is, it should have got spent from two accounts and got spent from only one account. So now we have to go back and refund the account it should originally came from, something to that thing. It was definitely the change in town accountants. One accountant was doing it, I guess, correctly, and the other one was doing it the way they've always done it, where they came from, and it results in an accounting shortfall in one of our accounts, and that misclassification.
So how'd you say we made an expenditure of one account and therefore it's running at a deficit and we have to clear the deficit, and we're doing it by taking money from free cash, not from the account that was previously funded where it should have come out and transferred from over.
Right.
So we're resolving the deficit in the account using free cash, not transferring it from the other account that was overfunded. So I have no problem with the expenditure and fixing the problem. It's just the explanation in quite
Just
a
the
line with what
mechanics
we're
of
doing.
how it's happening.
Yes.
And it could be that the account it should come out of is already exhausted, so there's no funds to transfer.
That's possible as well, yes.
This issue happened in a previous fiscal year. So there's no account to move the money from this year.
Yeah. There you go.
I missed that part. You did explain that. That's actually
Yeah.
a very important part of it.
And you need a 9/10 vote to solve it because of the prior fiscal year event.
Yeah, so I'm not sure because 9/10 is an unpaid bill. This was a misclassification of expenses between different accounts. But when town council is reviewing the warrant now, and so we'll get that answer upon his review.
So even if it's 9/10, I mean, we still can approve the article. But thank you
I don't
for
think we
pointing
should-
out.
We can clean it up. Hopefully, if we don't get the question, if we do, we have a more shorter, clearer answer so we don't create more confusion on town meeting floor.
Maybe we can explain the summary box a little better too, to just say this occurred in the prior fiscal year and the funds are no longer available to access to pay for it.
So let me just explain what I said to Kevin earlier. So for instance, if we put an insurance claim in and we have $1,000 deductible, okay? But when the bill went to accounting, the department did not account for the $1,000 deductible. So the cost of the hair, because of the insurance claim, say was $5,000, but the insurance company only gave us $4,000. They should have charged $4,000 to the insurance account and $1,000 to the deductible account. So that's an example of something that would cause this issue to happen. And because with the change of staff, it wasn't being reconciled, it is now being reconciled again so that we're tying everything else out. So we're back doing it the correct way, and we just need to fix this almost $3,000 of, again, it is expenses that were misclassified.
And I think the box has got a very short explanation that hopefully doesn't drive further questions there. So I wouldn't try to add more and try to.
Confuse it even more?
Confuse it even more.
Like my explanation did? Yeah. Thank you, Barbara.
So it's just a counting adjustment.
Yes, that's all it is. All right. I have.
Does Mike McGlone want to make a motion here?
Make a motion.
MJ.
MC.
I got Michael Jordan on it. I'm like, it's MCP. That's what I'm trying to write, and I'm saying J. MCP. All right. And,
Chris is probably gonna be right back.
oh yeah, but I'm just looking for a second.
Oh, I thought you already got that.
I got it first.
Second.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I can wait. We're gonna hold the vote once you sit back down. It's okay.
She gave me a proxy.
You get my proxy. That's all right.
Okay. I have a first and a second to approve the article as written. All those in favor? It's 8-0. Okay.
That's Article 48.
All right, 48, yeah. So now we have Article 49, the 250th celebration. Whoops.
So, in 2026, our nation celebrates its 250th birthday. Many communities are doing all sorts of activities and celebrations. People of Sturbridge have expressed an interest. I have put together a 250th birthday celebration committee. It's comprised of some volunteers we see all the time and some new volunteers. There's grant money out there. They are actively seeking some of the grant money that's available from the state for this. But in the meantime, we would like to have a little bit of seed money for 26, or to get ready for 26 and to start planning. They may start doing, for example, they might do something once a month into July of 26, which would mean that in fiscal 26, January, February, March, they might need some funding. So it's just a little bit of money, a little bit of funding to be able to partake in the 250th birthday.
Okay.
Curious, how much grant money is available, and where's it, that's just from the state, you said?
Some of it's from the state. We're trying to track down possibly some federal, but there are state grants out there. We haven't specified amounts. Right now, some of them have already been, some communities started looking for grant money even a year ago, but they just put out a new round of grants, and I think they're going to be $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 grants kind of thing. We certainly will apply for grants, but it would be nice to have a little extra money. I mean, it might go toward, police details, it might go toward advertising, it might go toward bringing a band in for an event on the common, or, they've really got some creative ideas that they want to do. They just had their first meeting, and they may have had their second meeting. Well, it's a public meeting, it's a standard public meeting. They have a chair and whatnot, so it's all vetted that way.
And I missed, Robin, what committee or group is doing this?
I put together a 250th birthday celebration committee.
Okay, thank you.
And I asked for volunteers, and we have volunteers, like we have people from Historic that are on there. We have, a member of the Board of Selectmen is on there. And then we've got some just members of the public that want to step up and be part of it. Oh, and we just, I think, I believe Sandy Quigley just joined as well, or is joining.
Okay.
So we have people from Beverage Tourism there, it makes sense to have STA represented as well.
I'm okay with this, I'm having flashbacks, right? I feel it was the 150, whatever big anniversary we had, like, 30 years ago for the town, when we had the big parade and the little festivities up at the school, and then we would carry that little thing year after year, every summer, and fund it, and then we had a little tight budget one year, and people got concerned about spending money for a party when we're trying to cover a cost, so we seem to be in a similar thing here. Hopefully that issue doesn't come up, but we'll see how it gets received.
All we can do is ask.
Okay.
It's 1988.
Did you just make a motion? Oh,
I did not.
okay. Does anyone want to make a motion? Mike? Do I have a second?
The other mic.
Mike Hager, okay. All right, we've got a first and second. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? So 7-1. Okay, so there's two other things here, so let's deal with this. Monitoring wells.
You want to do them tonight?
Yeah, why not?
Isn't on your agenda, but that's all right.
Well, they were just added, so they, you know,
All right. So monitoring wells, again, that's Board of Health landfill related. I would put these in the, just check my notes, I'm going to use the word compliance related items. So there are a number of monitoring wells around the landfill as part of the compliance plan. One of them has to be decommissioned, and there's another new well that we need to put in a slightly different spot, and therefore we got to close out the old well that's in there. So these are the costs associated with closing two non-performing wells that we have to decommission and adding a new well to be able to accurately get groundwater samples for the testing requirements we have.
What is involved in decommissioning the well, Mike? They just,
Every time you drill one of these monitoring wells, I think they get, there's just some database in the state, so you gotta go back and tell it, we're taking this out, but you really need to fill it in and cap it and close it, right? You don't wanna leave an open pipe or something
right,
all in there.
and then you have to go through a documentation procedure to verify that you did it, okay, thank you.
I don't know how many projects I've had coming down a little right-of-ways or whatever, and all of a sudden, hey, there's a cap in here, there's an old well, whose is it? Is it still active, is it gone?
all right. So do I have a motion for Article 50?
I'll make the motion.
Jim Wadding approved as written. Do I have a second? Kathy Neal? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't look that way. So I saw a hand at the last second somewhere over there. Any further questions? All those in favor? 8-0. Great. And then adoption of Mass General Law, oops. Chapter 200A, Section 9A. Oh, I'll be damned. I know I discussed this with Barbara, but I can't remember exactly what it does. I forgot what tailings were complete.
Funds held by the town which are deemed abandoned, so whose funds are we holding, it would be the question.
So it would be people that didn't cash if we, accounts payable checks or payroll checks. We do take, or I do take steps to write letters to people when their checks are not cashed. We try to send out letters on a quarterly basis, so we don't have a lot of these, but this is just a mechanism to get these amounts off of the town books, and there's a process that's in place. Well, actually, Kevin, I was going to get you the details of that for next week, if you guys need it, but it's basically just a tool in my toolbox to be able to dispose of these checks, but again, these are people that don't respond to letters saying, making them aware that they have an in-cash check, and we don't have a lot of them.
So basically you end up voiding them and the money stays in the account?
Yeah, you have to advertise in a newspaper, put a list online of their people's names and how much we owe them, and then, I think it's after a year, you can close it out, it will close out to free cash.
So you don't take the money and hand it over to the state's unclaimed fund and let
No,
them
we
take that
don't,
with
we do
you?
not do that.
So if after you do this, they come back and say, hey, I finally opened my mail, you owe me $100, it's too late at that point.
Correct.
Okay. So this just gives you a mechanism, should you need it, to process these.
Basically to
minimal
clean up the
amounts.
books?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Just look Mike's way, see if he's gonna do something.
do we have a motion to approve
Well,
that?
I'm just thinking it through, I don't really, I'm gonna vote against it, so.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the articles written from this side of the table? Kathy, do a second? Second, oh, Mike, all right.
Would you state the motion, please?
So it's to approve the article as written, or, to recommend
Recommend we approve the
the
article
articles
as written.
written?
Well, it would be to accept the provisions of that,
And the article just accepts the provision to give Barbara this tool.
and that gives the treasurer the, well, I guess it gives her a procedure for disposing of
Thank you.
those funds. I did look at the law, so it was pretty straightforward.
So, not to put you in a spot, but I'm just curious what your
Well, I
concerns-
thought that the money should go to the state, to the lost money, whatever it is, abandoned money, rather than us, especially somebody if they were older or something. I feel terrible saying, sorry, you can't have your money. So I just would vote against it. I would rather see the money go to the state and let them deal with it.
Fair enough.
Barbara did mention that they send multiple mailings to the parties involved, and if they don't respond after so many attempts,
How much time do we give people? A year?
I think she said a year.
We put together, I wasn't prepared to talk about this one tonight. So when we put together exactly what the steps are under this statute, there's also dollar thresholds. Like I said, I'm just not prepared to talk about it tonight.
Okay. Do you mind rescinding your motion till next week, and we'll just take it up next week?
Yeah, that's fine.
Mike, are you good with rescinding your second? Okay, so we'll take this up next week. All right, let me clear this out, because this is how I got confused last time. I left our vote in there, because I was gonna put it in there, and I thought we did it. All right,
You have to stop anticipating outcomes and wait for them.
yeah,
I write 8-0 and then I gotta go 7-1 on some of these things, so,
yeah. All right, so I think we're good as far as everything related to the special. So, going past that, we don't have any reserve funds. Mike did send out the minutes related to March 13th, so we can take those up.
I did get 1 or 2 little cleanups from MC over there.
Did you already incorporate them?
They were, if you can find them, I'll explain that I did them, but yes.
Oh,
There was a double no in there and and the ZBA dollar amount was not 890,000, it was
it's a
890,000.
590 and not 590,000.
Here, you want these?
No, that's-
It was related to the planning board articles.
Oh, okay, I have them right here, let me see. Okay, yeah, under Article 15, Town Budget, line item budget. Yeah, the ZPA should be $590 instead of 590,000.
But that's already corrected, right?
Yeah. And,
It's corrected on my version at home, I didn't resend.
oh, you
that
did,
version.
okay. And I was trying to think what the,
Let's call it amended then. Okay. Anyone else have anything, comments? So
do you want me
then,
to bring up the second one or not?
if you've already corrected it,
Okay, never mind.
I mean, I'm just gonna take a motion as amended with your corrections that Mike has already incorporated, 'cause it seems fine to me. For March 13th minutes, approve as amended. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second? Kathy? All right, and so I got two that are going to be abstaining. All right, all those in favor? All those opposed, and you're abstaining, and you're abstaining. 6-0 to 2. The only reason why I say that, in case no one knows, that Chris and Mike weren't there, right? All right, so that gets us through tonight's agenda in about an hour and a half earlier than the last time. So,
Topics, none.
yeah. I mean, the thing I'm gonna try and work on is that, you know, how to incorporate what we talked about when we were talking about the school bus, is that, you know, we're reaching the end of the reign of using free cash to spend for operating costs, and that next year it's not gonna happen, and either cuts are coming from the budgets that need to be cut, or we, you know, it just needs to be addressed. People need to step up and wear their adult clothes.
Are
So,
we going to make the comment just for this one article, or are we?
no, it's gonna go in the,
And the summary part where,
the bigger summary part, yeah. Larry,
Along with what you just now were saying,
yeah,
as a reminder, almost every year, the Finance Committee report includes a section called Issues for Your Consideration. They're very short essays, 100 words, 125 words, and they, when the chair makes the opening statement at the annual town meeting, he customarily points to that and asks that the voters pay attention to it. And what they'd be paying attention to in these essays are exactly what the headline says, matters for your consideration, that the Finance Committee foresees some issues that need attention, if not immediately, pretty soon, sometimes immediately. And it ties to what you were just saying because of the cost pressures. Now, what are those cost pressures? Well, the price of talent, the price of hard goods like fire and DPW equipment. It keeps going up. Police cruisers now cost what you used to be able to get 3 of them for, literally, and not that many years ago. Insurances are going up also. You want to keep in mind that there is a definable percentage of the town's developable land remaining undeveloped. In addition, there is a building height restriction. You can't put up a 90-story apartment building in order to derive some kind of revenue. Just not in the cards. Also, as each new house is built and occupied, the moment they walk in, the town has a 100% responsibility, if it's on an accepted road, to plow it, maintain it, fix it, so forth. The library has to be ready, the ambulances have to be ready. Right now, we have 2 customarily in service. At some point, we're going to have 3 because we can't count on mutual aid all the time. And so it goes, but it creeps. You don't notice the little increments. And one day, it seems like it was sudden, but it was coming all along. So what's the alternative? Revenue generation. Now, that does not mean trying to lure another Amazon type of situation. I don't think the property, just the acreage, is not here, even if we wanted it, which I think the town does not. And there is a high sensitivity to traffic, the volume of traffic. This committee has, for years, until a few years ago, repeatedly told in issues for your consideration the fact that nearby, Worcester, there is a very sizable installation of medical research which is clean, plus the medical school and UMass Memorial. And they're running out of land. And there are a lot of laboratories that are high-paying, high-skilled, high-educated, high-expectation individuals who could live here and commute. It does happen now, but not in any significant way. And that is just one example of a way to generate revenue on a sustained basis. But what comes with that kind of capability, part of the town's commercial inventory, are all of the supporting smaller businesses like dry cleaners, hair salons, and the like, to service the increased population and the increased demand. But leaving revenue generation unattended or taken as a, well, we'll do it when we can, without a concerted program. Today's local paper, coincidentally, has an article that Charlton is having its first annual business expo. Heretofore, it seems that occasionally some disgruntled business owners would get together, and 180 days later, they're not together. It just kind of comes and goes. And that's in the private sector, people who have a concern, usually about, interestingly enough, how expensive it is. Well, revenue generation is a way of offsetting. Right now, the town is caught in the cross current, and the tide of that current is rising, because what are you going to do? Pretty soon, the custodian is going to be what, $40 an hour? There it is. So I would like to suggest that an essay, which I'd be happy to draft for everybody to review, which is the way we do those things, on this topic. I think it is unavoidable, and I think we have a responsibility. Whatever the voters decide, let them know, if they say no, what they're saying no to. And if they say yes, then let them prove it by funding that effort. They can't have it both ways. Well, they can, but, you know, that's the problem with the amygdala. You know, it's not rational. So, at all events, I do propose that we do A, issues for your consideration again, and B, that this be considered, maybe you won't like it after all, but be considered as a topic which I'd be happy to draft.
Good, I'm taking you up on that.
Yeah,
All right.
I think that's great.
So Kevin, I would just caution on what you were saying there, is, we're going, I wouldn't want to lead with, next year's going to be horrible, we're not going to have enough free cash, blah, 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 because maybe we get a big revenue source that we didn't kind of predict and anticipate, and free cash is available. Maybe growth is higher than we're forecasting, and there we got some room. There may be some release, but I think the issue is the rate of growth of our expenditures is higher than a rate of growth of our revenues coming in here. And
Exactly.
If that were to continue, and we don't have these other relief mechanisms that we've been relying on, then we need to consider, doing these things. And put it in that way, because I wouldn't say, hey, we're gonna run out of it, and then all of a sudden we gotta,
That didn't cross my mind.
it goes,
that latter
it goes
part.
the other way.
No. And if I screw up, you're gonna see it anyway, before the presses turn. But that is the approach that I had in mind, yeah, sure. And to bring it home quickly, for somebody who maybe only pays attention to this stuff the day of the annual town meeting, is to use an example or two. A hard good is built to last for its proper use 3 years or more. Okay, like a refrigerator. Okay. Well, fire truck used to cost this. Now it costs this to put out the same fire. There's no increased value. So, anyway, but your point is my point. Thank you.
No, I'm, everyone gets to read it, so if it doesn't work, I'm more than happy to accept any editing comments, because I'm not tied to my verbiage. I'm representing the
Well,
board.
it's like we got our incomes going up 2.5% or 3%, and our budget's going up 3.5%, 4%.
Yeah.
So at some point, you gotta look at, businesses that don't use a lot of our school systems or take away, that we have to supply services to. If we supply water, we get paid for it. If we- Water and sewer, they all get paid for it. So I think that,
We want to become the Villages North, our over 55 community, no children. And then,
Well,
I just think that.
you're not crazy, you're right.
This is, for many years, for many years I've been in Sturbridge, we've always had this community-minded thing, but everybody, it seems as though that it's catching up to us that way.
Yeah, at a certain point, to borrow from the private sector, the only way to avoid being upside down is to demand taxes that are tyrannical. Otherwise, we're upside down.
Yeah.
Which is a way of saying insoluble. Insoluble maybe, but which cannot happen in a municipality. In other words, it gets more and more costly, driving people away with the same rising costs for the services on a smaller payer base.
well, not only that, but your services would be.
Compromised.
Yeah, would be reduced, because your expenses are still going up.
You got a house fire, take a number like in a bakery, we'll get to you.
All right, well, we have some comments, so that's good. Anybody else have anything, new business? Old? Public? Right then, next, take a motion to adjourn. That's Kathy. Anyone want to second that one?
Second.
Oh, there we go, Mike. So, all those in favor? That's at 8:44.
Oh, yeah, me.
43, all right, I'll give you 44.